I've found it on Twitter. Hello and good afternoon to all our viewers. Welcome to panel discussion 7 of today's Startup Summit. We've been having a great time so far. So if you've missed what we've been doing since 10 a.m., you have missed out on a lot. I can guarantee you that. Currently, on another stream, we have Fela Durotoye giving his keynote address about how to be a transgenerational startup business. But we are going to start off with another panel discussion about legal matters at all. And in the panel, we've got so many people who are ready to help you out with any of the questions you have about what it takes to be able to legally set up a business in Nigeria. So permit me to start to read the bios of those that are going to be on the panel discussion today. I want you to get your pen and paper ready and also invite your friends to join in, because this is something that is very necessary if you want to have a legal business in Nigeria, and also you want that business to be able to be recognized globally. So let me start by introducing my first panelist, ADERINSOLA. FAGBURE. She's a graduate of Igbinedion University and has a master's degree in corporate law from University College London. She is passionate about entrepreneurs and writes regularly. One second, please. She's passionate about entrepreneurs and writes regularly on legal structures for SMEs through her brand In Black and White. She's spoken at various fora and business summits on the importance of a legal structure towards ensuring business perpetuity. She's interested in companies and the successes, hence her passion for company law, finance, and corporate governance. ADERINSOLA is an active bar member, the founding chairperson of the Young Lawyers Forum of the NBA Lagos branch. She's a member of the International Bar Association and the African Crowdfunding Society. She is currently the principal partner at In Black and White Legal Practitioners. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a virtual welcome to ADERINSOLA FAGBURE. Hello, madam, welcome. So next, joining us on the panel discussion is HADIZA Said. HADIZA Said is a lawyer with over 18 years post-call experience in environmental law from the University of Jos, as well as an MA distinction in international law, security and tourism from the University of Nottingham, UK. She's a Chevening scholar. Ms. Said has written and presented several published and unpublished papers in various areas such as judicial ethics, alternative dispute resolution, gender issues, counter-terrorism insurgency, performance evaluation, as well as court and case management. Mrs. Said was also a contributor to the Judicial Ethics Training Manual and the Alternative Dispute Resolution Manual for the Nigerian Judiciary of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime 2007, and the commentary on the Bangalore Principles in 2007. She also participated in the drafting of the Nigerian Code of Conduct for court employees, which came into effect in March 2003. Please give a warm and virtual welcome to Mrs. H.S. Said. Welcome, madam.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. So while I'm still waiting for the rest of the panelists to join, I want to introduce our absolutely amazing moderator. His name is ANIEKAN USOROH, and he is a business administrator consultant, a service delivery strategist, a communications professional, a prolific speaker, writer, and certified trainer. He's a firm believer in the future of the nation Nigeria and is committed to building champions who will take their place in putting our nation back on track. ANIEKAN is the principal driver of the Pathway of Champions initiative, which focuses on the pursuit of excellence in every area of life and reaches out weekly online via his WordPress blog. He is the Director Strategic Partnership with the Young Entrepreneur Success Stories Conference, YES, with a track record of hosting Success Stories Conference. He has certifications in business ethics, development finance, revenue lifecycle management, citizens engagement, project management, and health economics from different world-class institutions, including the University of Ibadan, the University of Ivy in California, and the World Bank Institute. Please give a resounding welcome to our handsome host on this platform, ANIEKAN USOROH. Hi,
Hey,
it's good to have you back again.
hi, how are you? Great.
I'm awesome.
I love that. Awesome.
Yeah.
But how come we
Thank
don't have the
you
name
for
tags up?
being.
I'm not seeing the name tag.
Well,
Let me put that.
I will do that in a second. I think it's because they use the different setup, but I'll put them in. So I'm going to bring in another panelist now, ADEJOKE. Okay, and I'm so sorry about it. Somehow your profile is missing. So I'm going to ask ANIEKAN to give you 3 minutes to introduce yourself once we start the panel discussions. Please accept my apologies because we just had a computer glitch right now and my screen has gone blank for where I'm reading the profiles from. So please don't be offended. We love
It's
you
okay, man.
and we know you're awesome. Thank you so much. So let me also bring in ADERINSOLA FAGBURE to the stream if they're here right now, and they can also join in. So let me put back the names of everyone so that people can see who is who. Yes, now your names are all up. And I'll ask ANIEKAN to take it from here. And if there are any extra people, I will bring them up as we go along. So thank you all and have a great panel session.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Madam Marola. As usual, you're just amazing. So thank you so much. And a massive welcome to everyone that's joining us today, both on different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it is that you're joining us. I certainly must recognize and celebrate. Great to see you, ADEJOKE. Great to see you, HS Said. And great to see you, ADERINSOLA. So thank you very much. Today, we have about 58 minutes or so to have a conversation around legal matters and policies as regards startups. And so I'm just going to start the conversation this way. First of all, every time I have to discuss this area with startups, the first thing I notice is that people think they need any form of legal counsel or guidance only when they run into trouble. And they've gotten into one hitch or the other. They're unable to understand one government policy or the other. They run foul of something that statutorily they shouldn't run foul of. And then all of a sudden, they need legal counsel, they need legal, attention. But that's not how we should work. I believe that we have a new breed of startups, a new breed of entrepreneurs. We need to be able to educate them right in such a way that right from the nascent stage, from the very beginning stage, to understand everything that has to do with legal matters and policies concerning their business, their industry, and their sector. So I'm going to start with opening thoughts, and I'll start with ADEJOKE. Joke, what are your opening thoughts as regards what we're discussing today?
Good afternoon, everyone, once again. My opening thoughts about people not taking legal matters serious is, I think, is as a result of our educational system and the fact that we are more reactive than proactive. People don't go to the hospitals for checkup. I mean, it has to do with the educational system, the way the economy is, and people try to cut corners or try to manage funds. Let me have a balanced perspective. So people, for example, wait till they're really ill or there maybe sicknesses in a very advanced stage before they seek medical attention. You don't have a proactive approach towards your health, and people take that same thing because how you do one thing is how you do everything. They take that same approach into their businesses as well. So in the process of sitting down to plan legal matters or legal creating a framework for like a legal structure is not the foremost on their mind. Maybe the minimum they do is, okay, let me register so that I can open a bank account. Afterwards, they don't come back to you until there's a major problem, there's a major policy issue or a glitch or issues between the founders or issues with their banks or stakeholders in their industry. So I think it will come through reorientating people will come through our educational system, letting people know that being proactive with legal matters, with every other thing, is the right way to go. That's the very first step in getting it right. Start up having a framework that will protect you before anything happens. Hi, ANIEKAN. Hello. Mr. Osoro, are you there? Hi, Mr. Osoro. That will be all for now. Thank you.
Okay, so the handlers decided to keep me in the backstage, and they left you all by yourself. So we apologize. We left you. I hope you were feeling too lonely. We left you out there all by yourself. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for those opening thoughts. Let me have ADERINSOLA in the studio because I want to take opening thoughts from everybody. I want to take opening thoughts for everybody. So I have ADERINSOLA FAGBURE in the studio, and then I'll come to HSI. So ADERINSOLA, are you there? Your camera is off right now, so I can see your visuals. If you're not quite ready, let me jump over to HSI. So HSI, your opening thoughts as regards what we're discussing today.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much for having me on. I'd like to thank the organizers. It's certainly a wonderful initiative. But please permit me to state a caveat. All these thoughts are my own. They do not represent my organization in any way. They're just my personal opinions.
Absolutely.
I think it's, thank you very much. As a legal practitioner, I would say, yeah, you need a legal practitioner every step of the way. You should have a lawyer every step of the way. Startups now are blowing up all over the place. We've just seen the gentleman in Lagos who were able to receive like hundreds of millions of, tens of millions of dollars from being a startup. So it is big business. People are rushing to invest in startups. And I think maybe kind of driving the conversation and grounding it in some statutes. I do apologize if this is boring, but I think it's important to note that the new Karma 2020 is like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it, depending on which side of the divide you're on. It's provided quite a few sections that I think are startup friendly. For instance, now you can actually register a company with just one member. Section 18 does allow you to do that, and even your objects now can be unrestricted. They're only restricted by your articles of association, as provided by Section 35. And you're now at liberty to use electronic signatures. Again, these are all new innovations that are in the new Company and Allied Matters Act 2020, which I will henceforth refer to as KAMA. So even the use of common seal is optional. So while you're trying to benefit and navigate through the terrain, it's always handy to have a lawyer who advises you every step of the way. Yes, I do know there are drives to ease business in Nigeria. I think this administration has pushed for it, but still, for a newcomer in the business, a young one probably just graduated, it can be a bit confusing. So certainly, I would certainly urge every potential startup, members of a startup to seek legal help, even with your agreement. Yeah, misunderstandings can arise. So yeah, you probably need your lawyer to guide you through some of this stuff as well. Thank you very much.
All right. So my next question then will be, and I think ADEJOKE can take this up. I don't know where ADERINSOLA is. Probably she will join us in a bit. But my next thoughts will be: is it just any lawyer that you need to have that conversation with? You need to have that journey with, because it is a journey. All right. In my understanding and from my experience, it is a journey. But is it really just any kind of lawyer that you need to? Are there people with different particular specializations that you will recommend? ADEJOKE and ADERINSOLA, it's good to have you back with us. I'm going to come to you in a bit, but let me just have Joke respond to the question I raised, and then I'll come to you, Adeshola. So Joke, go ahead.
Now, when building in a continent like Africa or Nigeria, particularly, because I like to go from the general to the particular, it's a bit dicey. So every founder needs the right person, the right team on their side. So having a lawyer who seeks to understand your business needs and understand the ecosystem you are plugging into and understanding your vision is key. But more importantly, understanding the kind of business, the kind of startup you're building. Is it in tech? Is it real estate? Is it in production, manufacturing? Is it a service as a software? So getting a lawyer that understands the dynamics of the documentation you need, the regulators, the policy makers, and the stakeholders is very key. So you don't just want to go to meet any lawyer. You want to go to meet a lawyer who probably has some experience in your industry or someone who is willing to go all the way with you to understand the dynamics of the ecosystem that you need to be able to project on the things you may need that you're not even aware of, because as a founder, you want to focus on the technical side of building your startup. And you want a lawyer who would understand your vision from the go. Are you planning to exit? Are you building a legacy? Do you want to own it forever? So having a lawyer who understands specialization is really key from the beginning, so that there are no issues when you're maybe 5 years, 10 years, or is at the point of exiting, you're having problems because you're probably giving equity to some people you're not supposed to give equity to, and all that. So having a lawyer who understands the dynamics, specialization is really key. So thank you very much. That's my thoughts on this.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Adeshola, are you with us now? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, just wave at me. I'm itching to hear you talk. Adeshola, are you there? Okay, still seems like she has a bit of network glitch. Seems like there's a delay. So we'll just move on. Hopefully we'll sort out technical issues with her. I'm going to bounce back on Adejoke before I come back to Asian side. Adejoke, you said something about having a lawyer who's experienced, who understands business development and understands the nature of your business. But then again, here I am. I'm just thinking, right? You're a nascent business, a nascent concern. You're a startup. Do you really need a lawyer that has that experience? Is it possible for someone just fresh out of law school? Just asking, because this was a question someone actually asked me to make sure that I asked on the show today. So if someone just came out of law school, will he or she be able to offer this kind of service to a startup company? I mean, I'm fresh out of law school, you're a fresh business, let's grow up together. I mean, does that even make sense? Adejoke? And then I also have HSI respond to that as well. Adejoke, go ahead.
That's a bit tricky, to be honest. And because I have brands that I've grown with, let's say in the last 5 years, I wouldn't throw away the baby and the bathwater. Even a young person, if you're a young founder, you need perhaps a young lawyer. But what I have done so far so good is that I know when to escalate. I know when to go outside and say, you know what, this is something in upstream oil and gas. This is not my core specialty. I have a senior or a colleague who's this is their specialty. For example, I'm married to a lawyer who is into full litigation. So when we review document, for example, I'm reviewing it from the angle of a business development lawyer who understands growth, you want to pivot, but it's seeing the pitfalls. So we have synergy in that way. So I would advise that if you're a young founder, you believe in a lawyer who believes in your dream and your vision, and who is invested in understanding it, by all means, give the person a chance. But obviously, have the caveat that in case things don't go out, or in case we're going to take on a giant, we're taking on a bigger transaction, we are doing maybe raising C2, Series A, or you're raising seed capital, you want someone with experience who knows the difference between a VC, a venture capitalist firm, and a private equity firm, so that you don't mix them up or lump them up. You want someone who understands it. So let the person understand that the goal is eventually to grow and to pivot. And as long as the person is not greedy, please work with a young person and grow with the person. It's always beautiful to grow with someone. I'm all for that because I've gone with some people and it's been a very great journey. And so far, so good. I've not had such crisis because I know when to escalate, I know when to bring in other professionals in my field.
Awesome. Okay, so HSI, what's your take on that? Can you hear me? Okay, HSI, can you hear me?
Yes,
Right.
sorry, I do apologize. I had actually muted myself. Absolutely, I totally agree with Adejoke. Brilliant suggestion. We've got some very young, brilliant minds. Why not? They can grow. But again, the trick is to know when to seek for advice and guidance, especially in very tricky areas to do with tax. They're very complex areas. If you're into IT and you're doing something in that field, if you're, for instance, oil and gas, like Joke mentioned, yes, certainly you do need specific skills and expertise in that knowledge. Law has grown. We also have specialists in certain areas. And I believe we also have an active directory for all lawyers in Nigeria, all registered, verified lawyers in Nigeria. So law has grown. It's no longer a one-stop shop like before. You have lawyers that have really built their their core, their speciality in a certain area of law. However, the young must grow as well. Certainly, give them a chance. I have a few colleagues I went to law school with. They're doing brilliantly well now. And I remember when we all had like our little run-ins at CAC as young lawyers. We're trying to go to CAC, registered companies, that kind of thing. You got to learn. However, at this point, I think it's responsible only to advise pupillage. As a young lawyer, even from law school, you're supposed to undergo a certain amount of pupillage under a senior lawyer. So again, I can't stress that enough. That will prove invaluable as you go forward in your career. Pupillage doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in that law firm 24/7. You can be an associateship. There are very flexible ways that you can undertake pupillage. So yes, I'd certainly encourage that. Thank you.
All right, great response. I want to find out if ADERINSOLA is now with us. ADERINSOLA, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Wow, seems like she's not here as I want her to be. Okay, so let's
Yes, I can
move
hear
on.
you.
Let's move on. Oh, awesome.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. Adesola, it's good to have you here. It's good to have you here. I understand that there's a bit of delay between my sound and your sound, so I'm trusting that we'll be able to fill in the gap as we go along. But I just want you to share your thoughts with us over the next 90 seconds with regards to legal matters and policies for startups. What would your opening thoughts be?
Okay, for me, I always say that every startup needs a lawyer. That's my cliche line. In whatever sphere you are, as Joker has said, you could be in retail, you could be in manufacturing, you could be in tech, but whatever it is, you just have to have a lawyer to help you navigate murky waters and to help you prevent circumstances could arise as you go along. So that definitely startups have financial constraints, especially if it's not as if you've raised money and you're just trying to bootstrap along the line. So as Joke has said again, it would be good to have somebody who buys into the philosophy and understands where you're
Okay, so I'm hoping that I lost her for a while there, even though I got a bit of what she was saying. So looks like her microphone is muted, but I can still see her speaking. I don't know if that's a delayed transmission. So I'm just going to move on. We'll come back to ADERINSOLA shortly. So Joke, if you can hear me, I'm coming back to you, right? So now,
Yes, I can.
all right. Recently, one of my responsibilities was to serve as the lead consultant to a state government on revenue. And in one of the things that we're doing, where we're having collection drives, I noticed that in my engagement with a lot of organizations in that state, a lot of people were totally oblivious as to the remittances, the fees, or the levies that they ought to have been paying or they ought to have paid. I mean, they were totally oblivious. And I mean, it's one thing for someone to not want to pay. It's another thing for this person not to even know that they ought to be making all this kind of remittances to the revenue board and all of that. And so my question to you will be, what are the things, let's get practical now. What are the startups need to know? Okay, so it's I mean, you should have some basic knowledge of certain things. What are the things that they need to know so that they don't run into hot waters before we start talking of policies? Joke, take that up.
Okay, so again, it would look like I'm harping a lot on education, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And most people, you would really agree with me that there is a bit of a disconnect between the government and the community, in the sense that people are not saying, oh, there's a bit of a, interference.
There's a feedback, yes. There's a feedback, but please just go ahead.
All right. So you see, people are not really aware. Again, it goes to the education. When you're not aware that the government is going to do so and so for you. What are the kickbacks they get? They are not even aware that they can get some sort of tax relief, some sort of relief, some sort of rebate from the government. There has to be a way to properly communicate the value that the government is bringing, so that there's synergy between the value, the startups and the organizations and companies and small businesses, because MSMEs, they drive the economy, they employ people. Earlier today, I saw a tweet online about UWIN that was run some years back, and how some of them are fizzled out and some of them are actually still running, and they're employing more than 30 people. These are people who are benefited from the government. These are people who will be aware that they had to remit their tax, because that's one of the conditions precedent in giving them those kinds of reliefs and those kinds of opportunity, and then of course the things that the government does. So there has to be an educational drive in letting people know the benefits, the value. Don't just come and say we want to take tax from you. Let them know that when we take this, we are giving you this. This is what you get by operating in this state, for example, by giving us this value, by doing this. So that the miscommunication goes out of the window, the distrust goes out of the window. The government trusts the startups trust the government, and then there's synergy. If there's a major tax drive, let it not be tax drive to witch hunt people, because that is what it comes across as. Let it be a tax drive to know that it is for improving peace and security, improving, for example, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in production, you need access for good road networks to be able to get your goods and services to the end users. So if you're not paying your tax, you're changing yourself, because the government cannot do what it's supposed to do for you. So if there's proper education, proper communication drive, it cascades properly. And when I say startup, a founder doesn't necessarily have to be educated, except you're looking at the savvy people, maybe the people in tech. There's some people who employ 30, 40, hundreds of people, and they pass that business from one generation to the other, even though we don't have a lot of that in Africa. These are the people you want to bring to the table, and you want to properly educate them, properly, and they know the benefits. The government is their friend, and in the long run, they are on the same team for growth and development. So that's my take on that.
So
You're muted, ANIEKAN. You're muted. You're muted.
hey, Okay, so I'm unmuted now. Right. Okay, so what I was saying was now you have that kind of situation, right? You have that kind of situation. And what you were saying, Joke, is that look, people need to be educated. Who's supposed to be responsible for that education? Is it government? Is it the agencies that oversee tax? I mean, I'm just throwing this open because the truth of the matter is by the time people realize that they even have these things to pay, they're already hot around the corners. Production is already being stopped. Premises are already being sealed, and it's already a very nice business. And you're saying, look, for your own sake, all right, for your own sake, where can somebody's asking, where can I get all the information I need with regards to everything that has to do with my business? Is it the lawyer that will give me all the information, or is the lawyer just supposed to help me interpret whatever it is that has to do with my business? Where does tax education now come from, for instance, in this particular scenario?
Can I take that, or do we defer to
yeah, okay, fine. No, okay, go ahead, take that, and then we'll go around, because I would like to hear everybody's perspective on that.
Shared responsibility. That's my take. Everybody
A
has
shared responsibility.
responsibility. For example, when I'm training, I practice shared responsibility. I practice active responsibility. I tell the participants, you are responsible for the things you gain from this summit, from this training, from this organization. The government has a part to play because they are also major recipients of this tax. The founders, the business owners, they have a part to play as well. When they are going to the banks to get loans, they know to take their NEPA bills, they know to take all those documentations that they need. The National Orientation Agency has a part to play as well. And then the lawyer ultimately has a part to play. That's why I said you need a lawyer who is proactive. We need to change our orientation from being reactive, waiting for your business to be shut down before you do the right thing, waiting for your businesses, your goods to be seized before you bring the right receipts to pay it, and then you go and play the thing. So there has to be shared responsibilities between all stakeholders so that your business doesn't stop. As an individual, as even an ordinary person, I project from the beginning of the month. What am I going to need in my house? What am I going to need in my business? What are the needs I have for next year? It comes into proper planning, doing business with integrity, doing business to scale. You are not just doing business for survival. You are doing business to build a legacy, to build a structure. Then your lawyer has a role to play. The government has a role to play. The founder has a role to play. And don't forget that the internet has democratized access to knowledge now. Some things are just away from the Google search. Although the part the government has to play is very much, because, for example, there's something else on the website of the government, and then you get to that physical office, and then there is something else entirely that you're meeting. I've experienced this many times, and I'm sure Madam HSI, and of course, Derry can say the same thing. Changing my passport, for example, was very cumbersome. And then you have the issue of the people you meet there. And this is me really going after the government. It may look like I'm victimizing the government here, but this is me saying it the way I've experienced it. You have the issues of people. For example, you pay online using the remitter for your passport, and you get there and you say, I came for capturing, and they tell you, oh, you came for capturing. Who have you paid to? And you said, I paid online. Oh, they tell you, wait. That's your punishment for paying online after not using someone there. This is the personal experience. On the website, if you are changing from your maiden name to your marital name, which was, in my opinion, honest opinion, eventually a big mistake, there was a whole block of information there. And then I'm wondering, when I got there and they were asking me, oh, you need an affidavit of declaration of marriage. And I'm saying, no, but this is not on your website. And they said, no, madam, this is what we have. This is our internal policy. Why is that internal policy not on your website? Why does it feel like you are victimizing me? So take this experience as an individual into business. I just found out that STMUL, they insist on a certificate of proficiency. Even CSC doesn't insist on certificate of proficiency. And you have countries like the UAE now saying things like, come on here, come and do business here. You don't even have to have an Emirati founder. But you still find that as much as the government mouths ease of doing business, they are not putting their mouth where their money is. The people who are their foot soldiers, who are their handlers and operators, are not going on with that vision. It is still very difficult to get business done because the people there are not making it easy. But if these processes are automated, or half automated, half human interaction, perhaps it will be easier for the people to know if I pay online, once I click and I put my card, I can remit my tax. If I don't have to go from one office to the other, from one table to the other, then it becomes easier. It becomes easier to get those documentations. It becomes easier to make those payments. So like I said, there's a duty for everyone to get the information. And then there's a duty for the government to actually make ease of doing business, not just ease of doing business by words of mouth, but in action, in deed, and in the people who are there who are going to be carrying it out. So that's my take on this. So others can have their say.
All right. Okay. Oh, excellent. ADERINSOLA, do you want to take a bite at that? If you can hear us. Doesn't look like she's still connected. Okay, ADERINSOLA, if you're there. Okay, HSI, what would your take on that be? Because before you come in, let me just say something. One of the things I was also going to get us to talk about was whether the law allows for ease of business, truly doing ease of business in Nigeria, which is what ADEJOKE had already started off on, and then I wanted to talk a bit about agreements and contracts. But let me have HSI, let me have your take on the position that ADEJOKE was coming from before we go into contracts and agreements.
Yeah, thank you very much. I certainly sense the passion of my sister. And again, there's no experience. I mean, there's no teacher like experience. I think ADEJOKE clearly proves that, no matter what you find on the website, the information there, no matter what anybody tells you, you're kind of going to have to walk that course. But must it be so difficult and tedious? No, it doesn't have to. For instance, the issue of the tax education you spoke about, how many people know that within 6 months you must have your TIN number, which is your tax identification number? You need to have that within 6 months. How many people know that you must be registered for VAT, which is your value added tax, and even your company income tax? How many people know that you need to be registered for all those things within 6 months of incorporation? Again, the information has to be out there. It has to be concise, it needs to be available, and it needs to be in one place, hopefully. I know that the government has really pushed the ease of doing business, and there used to be this, I think it was a one-stop investment commission at some point. I think that was in 2006 or so that was set up. I'm not too sure if it's functioning. It's supposed to be like a one-stop shop for all your questions and all your needs, and for the assistance that we require for startups. But I'm not too sure where that is now. There have been quite a number of laws, a number of policies, but we kind of need to make sense of it, and it needs to be information that is available to citizens in bite-sized chunks. Not a lot of legalese or technicalities. We just need to see the process flow. When I'm done with CAC, I've got my statement of compliance from a lawyer. What do I do next? Sort out my tax registration. Okay, tax registration. What if I have expatriates I want to bring in? Definitely means I'm dealing with the Nigerian National Investment Promotion Council. So there has to be a process flow which is understandable and is workable. So again, that information, that education is key, but it's almost like a patient heal thyself kind of situation. Like Joke said, you have to make that effort to get as much information as you can at the beginning. And then possibly you're going to just have to ask questions along the way. There's a Hausa proverb that says, "He who asks does not get lost." Unfortunately, I wish I could give a better answer than that, or direct people to just one place where they can get all this information, but I don't. So I'm hoping, like the Startup Summit, people that have the experience, like Joke, I'm hoping they are the ones that can drive this effort to help other young people that want to go into business and establish their own startups. Because again, that experience is invaluable. I'm kind of just sitting here. I will never be able to tell you, oh, if you go here, they're going to ask you for this. They'll ask you for that. No, it's not on their website, but you'll give you that information. It will have to come from someone that has gone through that baptism of fire already. You understand? But
I
again,
know.
yes, I do agree. Government does need to do its part, and I'm sure there are efforts in that regard to collate all this information, show the process flow, and make it available to citizens.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I do agree with you. I do agree with both of you, because one of the things one of the responsibilities that I had to do whilst I was lead consultant to this particular state government on IGR was, look, information. I had to create a huge budget to be able to take care of communication, to be able to take care of information dissemination, to ensure that everybody literally understood what they were getting into, to call for workshops and do stuff. But then again, you now think about it. For example, that's why I said everybody has a responsibility to play. You call for a workshop where you want to enlighten people, and then you are sending some low-level staff to come and sit in the workshop so she can get lunch, and then she goes home. She can't upscale the information to those who are taking decisions, and then 6 months down the line, they've run foul and they're facing a tribunal and they're crying and and all that. So there's a lot. I think everybody has a responsibility because tax cuts across every single startup. But I want us to move away from tax just a little bit. I suspect that we'll come back to it at some point, but I want us to move from it just a little bit. ADERINSOLA, if you're okay, I'd like to talk about contracts and agreements. Somebody sat down yesterday with me and asked the question and said, look, AU, does a lawyer have to go through every agreement that you are drafting in your organization? And I said, you know what, just hold on, just tune in at 1:30. I'm going to have some lawyers respond to that. So let's start with that. ADERINSOLA, can you hear me?
If you don't want to get into trouble, a lawyer has to review every agreement that you're drafting or entering into. And I feel like I want to say that it's important, especially at the negotiation stage, because sometimes you have people come to you with agreements that they've already negotiated. They've gone into 3 weeks of negotiations without any legal counsel. And then they just shove the agreement at you and you're like, well, you agreed this at the meeting. So I feel like there needs to be that information out there that pre-negotiation, talk to your lawyer, let your lawyer understand what the long journey is so that the lawyer can prejudge certain things. Because we not only wear the cap of the person we're representing, we also wear the cap of the person on the other side. You also play the devil's advocate. And with all due respect to founders, they're usually sentimental. They cannot put themselves out of that business to be able to look at their agreements objectively. So legal advice is a yes from the negotiation stage.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning because you joined in a bit late, and I really want you fully part of this conversation. Let me rephrase the question I asked at the beginning. How and when does a startup need legal counsel or legal presence or legal affiliation or legal support? At what point? When
okay, apologies, I had a bit of challenge joining, so that's why. But yeah, I heard everything everybody said, we're taking and I totally agree with everything everybody said. But for me, it's at the ideation stage. Once you conceive the idea, once that eureka comes in and you have the idea, talk to a lawyer. It's very important at the ideation stage.
Awesome. So that's just making it clear because I wanted people to be very clear about it. Some think after they've made their first 10 million or their first 100 million, then they can now have a lawyer retainership and have some lawyer.
Because sometimes even having a conversation with your lawyer at the conception stage will make you know that this thing is dead on arrival. If you have a conversation with your lawyer and your financial advisor, you may be able to see the the bigger picture and realize that this is not for you, or this cannot work at this time, or this is not for this climb, or this is how we can navigate this terrain. So from the ideation stage.
Okay, so I'm going to look for trouble just a little bit now because I need to get this conversation all heated up. So what then happens to all those organizations that I know that have legal counsel and still do the worst of things or still run into murky waters? I mean, they have lawyers on crazy dollar retainership. They have with corner offices and all of that, and still run into issues. They had counsel, they had advice, they had lawyers review agreements, still they didn't get it right. What would you say in that instance?
I get your point. I get your point. You see, AU,
And
those
if you
people
notice,
have founders who are
if you
bullish,
notice, hold
and they've
on,
been known to tell
Adizake,
their
if you
lawyers.
notice, I didn't call anybody. I didn't call anybody's name. So which means that this was open to all of you. So go ahead.
I have founders who tell me, no problem, I have a tidy budget to fight. And you know, some are fighting maybe based on principle. Like, you know what, I'm going to really deal with you on this because they feel maybe slighted, cheated, or feel badly treated in the transaction. And there are some that the people working with them genuinely just made mistakes, or some that the policies did not favor them. Maybe, like David just mentioned something, some ideas are too advanced for the client you want to start them out from. I told you something yesterday that I'm weary of people who say, I want to create Uber for Africa, because even within Nigeria, people want different things. So few people have been able to scale through, like maybe Space Stack, but not everybody can actually create one thing that everybody in Nigeria will use, not in all industries. So you find that some people, it is because they are fighting based on principle. That's why they're going to get into murky waters as legal matters are concerned. Some people is a genuine mistake, and some people it is state effect on them. I won't mention names of companies, but you can see that one fell swoop, a company can get into trouble with the government, and you are no longer a going concern because of one singular policy. So the state is a very powerful factor. And while it may sound funny to some people, I'm a big advocate of lobbying. Every advantage you have, use it. If you have name, use it. If you know people, use it. It's imperative to have people who know people on your side. It's imperative to have people who understand not just the policy, but the policy makers and the stakeholders on your side. Otherwise, you can invest $100 billion in a business and the government feels like, you know what, this is not in line with our vision in this community or in this state. And then you are no longer a going concern, but you have investors to answer to, you have stakeholders to answer to, equity owners to answer to. So these are the reasons why people get into legal battles. And then again, it factor that people leave out: arbitration clauses. You go around Lagos or some very nice eyebrow areas, and you see some buildings that are old and decaying. Go and find out about those buildings. There's litigation on it because people perhaps didn't put in an arbitration clause, finances dried up, and then there's no mediation. People can quickly settle, and the matter is going to be tied up in our legal system for a very long time. So I'm a big believer, big advocate of having alternative dispute resolution, because that's business savvy. It helps you get resolution on time without being tied in a very long legal battle. So as far as I'm concerned, I go for the proactive stage where I avoid fights. But it's almost inevitable in some instances, and that is why you see brands, big brands, small brands get into legal battles. So that's my take on that.
So wait, I actually wanted to hear everybody's take on that. So Derry, I also like to hear your take on that, and then HS Said, I'd like to hear your take on that as well.
Okay, I'll start by taking a jab at my learned colleagues. There's some lawyers. Joke said this thing at the beginning of her presentation, that you need to buy into the vision of the organization you're doing legal counsel, you're advising. Because if you don't buy into that vision and you're not there because you want that business to become global, you would not put your heart and your soul into consulting for that business. We have many law firms, big and small, that are just there because they want their retainerships paid at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, or at the end of the half year. So that's a very important thing. And also, still again, lawyers, all of us inclusive, sometimes we forget that, look, you went to law school for 5, 6, university for how many years, law school for another year, clients come and go. You need to sometimes be able to call the bluff of your clients, especially in this cultural environment where a founder has the belief that I founded this business and nobody else can tell me what to do. Am I still there? Victor. So many times founders say, I founded this business 20 years ago. You were not there. You should be able to call the founder's bluff and let him know, I am a professional, act professionally, because many founders want to hold the biro for the lawyers and impute in the clauses, which is a very big issue. Also, as Joke has said, the state is very unpredictable. You can have policies that come up one morning and just entirely wipe out everything you envisage could go wrong. also another thing is, what is your intention? Because there are certain people that want that trouble. You think the trouble is problem, but some people actually want that trouble. They want to get that trouble so that everything scatters. That's the whole point.
For the
So
trouble.
that they can have some kind of restructuring arrangements and just, some people have different motives, but I want to just reach out to lawyers to let them know that you are a lawyer and act as a professional all through the line, even if you have to lose that brief standing on the points and grounds of principle. That's very, very important. And also orientation. Sometimes we need to reorient our clients. Fine, you may have founded this business 10 years ago, but this is not the way things should be done now. If you cut corners now, this is the repercussion in 5 years, in 10 years. This is what is likely to happen. Give them practical examples so that they can see where their folly would lead them to. And if at the end of the day he still insists, they say, am I not the one paying you? Then you just resign, really.
And you walk away. And you walk away. It's just saying.
Walking away has never hurt anybody, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And you must have a lot of integrity to know when to walk away, when a brand no longer aligns with my vision or my personal values. Because there has to be a synergy between my personal values and your organizational values, between the values of my friend and your values, before I work with you. Maybe that is why I don't have a whole lot, because I'm invested in the few people that I work with. If I work with you, I buy into your vision. I see it to the last letter, OHA. But some, like Derry said, some founders, they look for trouble and then they want to teach the lawyer what to do. You have to respect my office. You may not respect my age, but you have to respect my office. Knowing what you bring to the table is really key into advising a startup, even as they are pivoting. So let's wait for HSI's take.
All right, let me hear from her.
Well, I certainly admire the passion of ADEJOKE and ADERINSOLA. Corporate governance the world over is quite difficult. I mean, I don't know of any country that gets it right. You talk about the most sophisticated countries in the Nordic regions. From time to time, you still hear cases of them coming down hard on a big company or what have you. Multiple reasons abound. Again, sometimes the vision of the founder and the legal and their lawyer no longer aligns. Sometimes the lawyer, unfortunately, is willing to sell his soul. Sometimes even government policies. But however, that just means that we need to learn to adapt. The company needs to learn to adapt. The lawyers also need to adapt. And the founders also need to adapt. And adapt quickly. The world is changing so fast. So fast. We are evolving at lightning speed. So maybe in your planning, when you're planning your corporate governance structure, you have to give some allowances for all these changes that might come up. Again, you can't predict the future. You will not know what is coming until it comes. But at least there's certain structures you can put in place to at least mitigate some of these effects and ensure immediate compliance where there are policy changes and what have you. And again, I totally agree. If the company seems to be going in one direction and you're going in another, yes, as a lawyer, you should walk away. You should walk away. Why not? Because it serves no good for you and your name and your integrity, because at the end of the day, when you strip everything away, all you have left is your name. So it serves you no good for you to continue to align or your name be associated with a brand which as far as anyone is concerned no longer deserves it. So again, I love speaking last. I can just kind of concur with everybody and then offer a few words of wisdom. Yeah, so that would be my take on that. Thank you.
I know. You know that bit about speaking last. I like when I'm invited to events and I'm the last speaker. I just say, like ADEJOKE said, like Jay said, like HSI said.
Excellent.
Like
you said it.
Amazing. Yeah. But we're right. We're running down on the clock. But one final question before we give our final thoughts. Now we've spoken so much about the things that we have to plan for, adapt for, and all. But I'm curious to know: is there any law or anything in the legal space that protects startups in Nigeria? Is there any? So let me start from Daring, Joke, and then lastly come to Agent Side. So let me start from there. Is there anything that protects? Yeah, I got you. So is there anything that protects startups in Nigeria?
The question is vague, and I'll answer you vaguely. You said anything. I don't understand what that means. But in terms of laws and regulations, we have an abundance of laws and regulations that protect startups. They may not be proactive enough, and there may be a bit of confusion because we keep coming up today with this new law, that new law, a new governance policy for insurance business, the new governance policy for this. There might be an overlap sometimes when you look at, there might be issues of overlapping policies and things like that. But in terms of regulation, we have a lot of regulations. I'm not going to stand here saying regulation is the problem. I think the problem is implementation and also internal policy management for startups. Because a lot of times you find out that the problems with startups is not even policy, foreign government policy plays a big role, but many times I feel like, as it's been said, corporate governance, even within the startup, is usually where it gets rotten from inside the startup before we start blaming government or blaming policies or blaming regulations and laws. Because even within, you find out that there's no policy for finance, there's no policy for finance, you just withdraw money as you like, there's no separation of roles many times, everything, the structure is lacking. So usually for me, I wouldn't say we don't have a lacuna in regulation. There might be lacunas because even globally, they're expanding every day and remodeling their laws and looking at ways of improving. Some people would say, okay, let's do comply and explain. Some people would say, no, let's have a hard and fast rule to governance. But I don't think that is the nitty-gritty of the problem. I think the problem is even the heart of implementation, which usually comes with startups themselves, even within their houses. They usually don't have their houses in order, and that's when you see them having issues with government and other stakeholders. So that's it for me.
Excellent. Adejoke, let me have your take on it.
Honestly, there is an abundance of law. And the newcomer, while it's not the most savviest, but then you have to factor in that we're a third world country, we're a developing country, and there's no point having a very savvy law for a largely uneducated or underdeveloped populace. So we'll take what we've been given and then we'll work with it. I think the way to go is, maybe there are no laws that say startups specifically, but then there are businesses. Maybe the name will be medium, small, and medium, small enterprises. But you have MSMEs that are about 3 billion, 4 billion, and you are still a small SME. Even at 10 years in business, you can still be a startup. You are still a startup, and then you're looking to maybe exit, you're looking to maybe raise funds, or you're looking to maybe pivot and all that. So there are laws that guide frameworks, but are they being properly enforced? Are they being properly implemented? And then is there, are they adequately in the front of the people who actually need them? Because there has to be synergy. There has to be adequate supplying of those information for the people who need them. Government cannot, because this Nigerian markets can shakabula someone from Harvard. This, pardon my language, he would bazooka you away and you will be wondering, what's going on there?
Hold on, Doc. I'm going to ask that you say that again. Say it again.
Startup in Nigeria can shakabula you away. You would invest investors' money, and government will come tomorrow, or maybe another will come tomorrow and tell you, you know what, I don't want to put my money in this anymore because I heard something. For example, we had a conversation yesterday with AU. There are frameworks you need to consider maybe in farming and in production. Some founders will tell you, my problem right now is the security headsman. So it's not like there's no abundance of laws. There are laws, but implementation, enforcement internally, and then from the government. Because as much as we want to absorb the government who has a large place. Because I've had running battles with people and policies that had to do with government, and I could see that this is a huge gap from the government to the founders or to the players in the field. So it's a roundtable thing. Everybody play your part. Implement internally, have control, the right quality control, ensure that you are proactive enough to know what to envisage. And then, of course, the government too has a lot of work to do in actually making sure that if the business is not just in words, in action, really.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Honestly, I wish I could leave you guys to keep on talking. But as you know, we have so many other things lined up as well. And honestly, the feedback from your session has been amazing. Thank you so much, Adejoke Ogunlewe. Thank you so much, Madam Saheed. Thank you so much, ADERINSOLA FAGBURE. Thank you, our amazing moderator, ANIEKAN. People have been saying that you guys have been giving them all the tips that they needed to be able to sort out all the legal matters and whatever it is that they need to have businesses that would be legal and also save them a lot of woes from being bankrupt in the future because they don't know what to do. So I want our host of today to also officially thank you guys before we move on to the last panel session of today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Taiwo Adepoju, the startup specialist.
I'd like to say thank you. Thank you. Ultimately, I've had the best of it. This has been a fulfilling session. Beyond that, people have been impacted, people are ready, ignited to take on the next level. How do I begin to throw out appreciation? How can I pay for the quality of this panel? You really enriched us, and you are leaving us even more loaded. And so all I can pray is that God would empower you and grace you with much more than you have deposited, so that you constantly be at that peak where no one will be able to bring you down. I say a big thank you, and I'm going to be talking to you after this session. You have made the session the best, as it were, and indeed is the largest gathering of startups in Nigeria. Thank you. And to the Excellency, HADIZA, so much goodness, all right, so much love and goodness to you. ADEJOKE, my indefatigable lawyer of exponential jurisprudence. And indeed, Madam ADERINSOLA FAGBURE, you are awesome. Don't mind me, it's the excitement that is within me that is making me, a Yoruba boy, sound like an English boy. All right, and ANIEKAN, all right, ANIEKAN now, so when I leave things in your hands, it's almost, I've left it and, you take charge fully.
I salute you, sir. Salute you, and I do not take the grace that you exude for granted. I say thank you. Madam Marola, I'm handing over back the virtual lectern. I'm saying, please do the honors and end this session professionally. Thank you.
All right, and that was our thanks speech from the host of the Startup Summit. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give your virtual appreciation to our amazing panelists and the awesome, dapper moderator of the session, ANIEKAN USOROH. So we will be ending this session, and in exactly 1 minute, we have the final panel session that will be kick-started. So make sure that you join in by getting the link for that session from our Instagram page, or if you registered for the summit at the Telegram page. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve you all. It has been delightful to have Adejoke Ogunlewe, Her Royal Highness herself, HADIZA Saheed, ADERINSOLA FAGBURE, and the one and only ANIEKAN USOROH to have been sharing with you throughout this panel. So join us for the last session, because we always say we're gonna end everything with a bang. Till next time, we say good day and see you soon on the other side. Bye, everybody.